free immigration question and answer period. We're here again, May 18th, 2021. We're here to answer all of your questions live on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. If this is the first time that you're coming on board, you can post your question in the comments section of your mobile or your computer, depending on how you're connecting. And me and my colleagues will be answering your questions live today, whether it's about education, immigration, sponsorship, work permits, study permits, school admission, no matter what. Today, we will be able to answer you both in Spanish and English. I will have one of my colleagues join the session on our Instagram who is fluent in Spanish and is our education manager. So let me see if we can get Carolina on board here. And again, if this is your first time joining us, please note we are a licensed immigration firm here in Canada, and we answer all of your questions live, okay? Few things to note is that the Ontario Provincial Nominee Program today had a draw, okay? View, hold on. I'm just adding one of our colleagues to the session. Let's just wait for her on our Instagram page. We are live on Facebook and and YouTube as well. Hi, Carolina, how are you?
Hi, Reza, how are you? How's everyone?
Good, good. Thanks for joining us today. So if some of you don't know our colleague Carolina from our office here in Toronto, she is our education manager. She handles all the students, admissions, program selection, helping with study plans, transfers, deferrals, the works, right? And she is fluent in Spanish, everybody. So if you have any questions that you need to post in Spanish, we'd be happy to answer them live today. Okay? Thanks for joining us, Carolina.
No, glad to be here. Hopefully we have some questions and we can help some people, guide them a little bit. That's why we're here. That's why we do this, right?
Yeah, exactly. So no matter where you're from, South America, North America, Asia, Middle East, Africa, Southeast Asia, no matter where, the North Pole, the South Pole, Middle East, we're here to help you out and answer any questions, whether it's forms, sponsorships, admissions, work permits, extensions, restorations, or anything, travel restrictions. So one thing, so we are, so Oliver Liu on our Facebook is asking a question. So they're asking, is there any specific requirements for employers when we apply for the international student stream this year? Okay, so that would mean that if you're asking about the new federal program, the new TR to PR pathway, then there's no requirements, right? But if Oliver, if you're talking about the Ontario or another provincial program, there are very specific employer requirements to be able to sponsor or the applicant, right? So if you can elaborate on that, we'd be happy to discuss that as well. So one thing, Carolina, that we wanted to discuss today and answer some of the questions that were coming out is that the Ontario Provincial Nominee Program today has done its first draw for international student streams. So it has announced, how many points was it? 78?
77, I believe.
77. So you need 77 points in the Ontario Provincial Nominee Program International Student Stream to have been selected today, right?
Out of how many, Reza? Because a lot of people maybe don't know that the points and might not be understanding what this actually means.
Yeah, so it's out of 120 points, and in order to get close to 77, close to 80, you need to have a knock A job, right? So that's a managerial level job. You should have at least made $40,000 in the last 3 years at any point during 1 year, declared to the Canadian government. You should be making at least $20 to $40 an hour. You should have a master's or several, at least. You should have a IELTS 7787. Okay, so CLB 9, and you should have, studied in Canada somewhere, preferably in GTA or outside GTA, because if you studied in another province and you came to Ontario for this program, you wouldn't have gotten those extra 6 points. So
at least 2 years, because most of the 1-year programs are not really
a 2-year diploma, for example, right? So basically, it means it's impossible, right?
Yeah.
So
unfortunately, but yes, they actually did it no favor. They did no favor to anybody with this, for sure.
Yeah, so if anybody's watching this, basically Ontario provincial government is saying no to international students. That's what they're saying. Unless you're in a specific occupation and you can go under the other streams, or they're looking, you're working in a specific high demand, in demand occupation, there's no way that you would be selected. So if you cannot get into express entry, if you didn't get into the new PR pathway, you have no chance in Ontario to go through the provincial level program for nomination for PR, right? So this is a reality check.
We don't know yet, but maybe if you studied a master's degree in Ontario, there might be hope.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't know if no draw has been done yet, right?
Yeah. So if you studied at a college level in Ontario and you have an eligible employer to sponsor you for the Ontario provincial program, you have no chance. Like, unless you're a manager or managing director, manager level, or a very good software developer position with a very high salary, with 1 year work experience, with a very good English level, you have no chance with a college degree, right? So that basically means that you are at the mercy of either looking at express entry, and if your age is high and you don't have you don't have the language ability. Canadian experience class and express entry is more flexible this year, but still, right? The conclusion of all this is what exactly? What do you think, Caroline? What is the conclusion of this Ontario PNP draw today?
I think Ontario is becoming more specific, and not just Ontario. I believe the provincial nominee programs are getting very, very specific to get the exact people they need. People with excellent credentials, with work experience in high demand occupations. That's the main thing. They even have a list of occupations, and they assign more points to certain occupations. If you have engineers, they get 10 points, but then you have other areas like more social studies or on that end of the things, and it's very low. Yeah. So definitely they're picking just exactly what they need.
Exactly. So it's news flash for everybody, and if you haven't come to study in Canada yet, if you're planning to come to study, or if you're graduated and you have studied here and you're looking for an employer to sponsor you, definitely consider going to another province, right? That's going to be really important. So Toronto is not the hub, or it's not the best place to be in if you don't have a great job, good work experience, great language ability. Everything has to be top notch, and in most cases, international students will not have that criteria which the Ontario PNP is looking for specifically in their international student stream.
Yeah, I mean, they still have the other options, right? Express entry, Canadian experience, but through the province, it definitely became more complicated.
Yes, exactly. So if anybody's just joined us, please note that I see Rapport Connect is connected with us too, preferred partner. Ontario PNP today had 77 points as the international student draw. We did a simulation on our social media of what kind of person should be getting, what kind of profile should get 77 plus points. And if you look at it, you'll laugh. You'll be like, maybe Tim Cook, CEO of Apple, could get that, or an established person. I wouldn't even be able to get that. So basically, there's a clear message in this. Do not study in Ontario unless it's a master's or higher level of education. That is the conclusion we're taking in today. Okay? So we're gonna go.
We have a couple of questions.
Yeah, so Amir Fahim Far is asking, the police certificate I provided for immigration was issued in September 11th, 2018. And I left my country, Iran, in February 2019. Okay, less than 6 months on the date of issue. And from February 2000, I have been a resident. That's fine. They will require a new police certificate from you. So if you've already submitted your PR form, under the new stream, right? The new TR to PR pathway, and you submitted your old police certificate, they will require a new police certificate. So even with those dates you mentioned, they will require a new police certificate, because your police certificate was from 2018 and then you left in 2019. So unfortunately, that means they will come back and request a new updated police certificate, right? So Sonia, yeah, we were in touch, I think, on Instagram before. She's asking, so even if we study 2 programs at college,
2 programs, I thought.
Yeah, so she's doing a 1 year now, because I was in touch with her, and she's just graduating, I think it's October or September, I'm not sure, this year, and she's planning to do another 1 year to be eligible for the 3-year postgraduate work permit, because she's trying to figure out, okay, should I be going with the 1 year work permit and then taking my chances with the express entry or other programs, or should I do another year and then have 3 years postgraduate work permit, right? So, I mean, what do you think, Carrie? Carolina is our education manager, so she's the expert. She's gonna give you some good advice.
It really depends, guys. It really depends. People always come to me and it's like, it's true that we have to study 2 years. It's true that we only need 1 year. Immigration is personalized. It's good to go and hear from experiences from other people.
Yeah.
That also it's very helpful.
Yeah.
It always going to contribute. Is always going to contribute to your own process.
Yeah.
But it's very, very particular. So some people have a lot of, for example, like some people have a lot of work experience from back home.
Yeah.
Right? And they already studied, they have a very solid profile. So yeah, those cases, 1 year, they study 1 year, they work 1 year, and then they are able to get more than enough points. For example, if we're looking at express entry, for example, or Canadian experience, right? Yeah. But if you are, for example, a person that just finished high school and came to Canada, it's a pretty good thing, because Canada wants young people, but you are lacking work experience, for example. Yeah. So you're going to need work experience. So in those cases, for example, it's better to study a 2-year program. So going back to your question, Sonia, it's not that you don't have a chance in general, like staying with your 1 year degree or going for another one, it's going to depend on your situation right now. What are your points? What's your previous experience and all of that? Now, when you looking for other options like express entry, Canadian experience, right? If we're looking only to the Ontario PMP, yes, that's a big no. No for Ontario PMP. Reza, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But for express entry, there are other ways, okay? When we're saying there is no chance, it's just the Ontario PMP. We're even surprised as well that the draw came back with a 77
points.
Points. It's pretty high. It's pretty high. If you calculate what you need to get that, as Reza said, you need to be,
top level.
Have an amazing profile. So for Ontario, things are not looking great, but that doesn't mean that your profile and your experience and everything and your degrees and diplomas are not going to count towards something else. Okay, let's make sure you have it clear. I'm pretty sure there's a way for you to get to your path and to get to your PR. Ontario might not be it.
Exactly. So to elaborate on that, so if Sonia, if you're looking also at the express entry, you have to accumulate the 1-year Canadian work experience to be eligible under the Canadian experience class. So that means if you have 11 months, it counts as 0. If you have 11 months and 5 days, it still counts as 0. So if you think you can get that 1 year within a 1-year work permit, obviously you have a couple extra months, because by the time you apply, it may take a month or so to get the work permit, and then you have a 1-year validity on it. It's going to be a very tight schedule for you to accumulate that 1 year. So it's a high risk, and you're only eligible once for a postgraduate work permit in your entire lifetime. So that means you have to be reborn to be able to apply under a postgraduate, or maybe change your name and nationality. But the biometric system would still catch you. So the point is, yes. And Carolina, a lot of people they can't, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, 17,000, like I couldn't even afford that. So $16,000 to $17,000 they have to pay for international tuition. What do you recommend for students, international, who are looking at a second 1-year program, and they don't want to spend all this money in Toronto or the big cities on these colleges? What do you recommend?
Definitely, well, part of my job is to try to find good, affordable options for our clients, right?
Yeah.
And not just affordable, but options that will actually be good for them in the future in terms of the PR and employment.
Yeah.
And I would definitely right now suggest, and I'm pretty sure you've heard, the Atlantic provinces, right? We still have colleges there, public colleges, that are half the price. You are thinking on, or we're talking about $9,000 a year, which is, it can be significantly lower than a college here in Toronto. And then, as you can see, like if you choose Toronto, the provincial program is not really
useless
for you.
It's literally useless. It's literally useless.
Let's go for that. Definitely useless. So definitely in the Atlantic, you just have you don't. I'm sorry. It's hard for me to talk.
No worries. Carolina just had some surgery done on her teeth, so don't.
But what I'm trying to say is that in the Atlantic, you have many options, not just the one provincial nominee. When it comes to international students, of course, I'm talking, right? They do have their own international student streams, but they also have, for example, the Atlantic pilot program that is like for the region. And there are other streams as well. So there are more options in terms of provincial and regional programs. And the tuition fees are quite low. Now, it's not all the colleges, that is important to mention, Reza. Not all colleges in the Atlantic are
cheap.
Okay?
Exactly.
They are cheaper than Toronto, for sure, or the big cities, Vancouver, etc. But there are few colleges that have these great tuition fees. There are community colleges, there are great colleges. So I would definitely recommend that.
No, so that's great, Carolina. So just to summarize, if you're paying $16,000 a year in international student tuition fees for a college, the colleges in Atlantic that we work with, so how much is it? 9,600, 500?
You can find programs even in the order of like 8,000. The cheapest ones that we're talking about, trades mainly, that are pretty good as well.
Yeah, but what if they wanted to do marketing or business or these sort of things?
$9,950.
$9,950, right? Okay, so folks, if you're paying an extra $6,000-7,000 for a college somewhere else in Canada, if you like to really blow money and just burn your money away, please send the money to us. Okay, if you have extra $7,000 and you want to burn it, please send it to us. Okay, we'd really love to have your 7,000, because what you're doing is, colleges are all the same. Okay, that's a fact. I'm sorry in case if somebody's watching and they own a college or they're professor, colleges are all the same. For immigration purposes, it does not matter if you studied at a college in Manitoba, in Toronto, in Ottawa, in Vancouver, or in the middle of nowhere. It should be a public college with a designated learning institution number. You should study full-time for a minimum degree length of 8 months or more, and that's it. Okay, so if anybody's looking for that, Carolina is the person to contact. You can contact us, we'll put you in touch. When is the next program? What do we have availability right now, Carolina? Are we looking at January 2022 for the program intake? No?
A little. That's the thing, because these colleges are quite cheaper, right? But they are smaller as well, right?
Yeah.
So they have a lot of demand, and also because the region is coming up with these immigration alternatives. So people are finding that out and are going there. So they feel the seats get quickly. Okay. So basically, for example, in New Brunswick, we're looking into applying about a year early. I know it sounds crazy, but for example, for now, we are applying ideally for September next year. So to be able to be like relaxed, there are a few options. I can
for January.
There are options open for January.
Yeah.
There are very
So
good programs.
Yeah, if the student's not picky, they could potentially come in for January.
For January is good if they have their IELTS or even Duolingo. Some of these schools that we're talking accept Duolingo. Some of them don't. But yes, it would have to be hopefully soon. The programs can close any minute. We still have a couple of options open for January.
Okay, so for the athletic programs, I think she means for the Atlantic programs. Sonia is asking, for the athletics programs, I have to study again another program. I think she means for the Atlantic programs. No.
For the Atlantic immigration programs.
Yeah, no, you don't. Like, your degree, the 1 year is valid. And if you do another 1 year, it's valid. So you could be eligible under the Atlantic immigration if you have a designated employer, or if you find an employer in that province, you can be eligible under that. So it doesn't mean that the degree you did in Toronto doesn't count. It does count, okay?
It depends on each program on these provincial options have their own eligibility as well, right? Some of them require 2 years of study in the province, but some others don't. So it really depends.
Exactly.
There are options.
Exactly. There are options. We've handled a lot of cases, especially in Nova Scotia and other Atlantic provinces. So there's another question from El Chiliway. I think she's Espanol as well. Hello, thank you so much for this live. Would like to know which is the best option for emigrante for a family? Unfortunately, it kind of cut off, so I don't have the rest of it, but she's asking, and I believe she's probably Spanish speaking. What?
I cannot see it.
It's in the Q&A section. It's in the Q&A. So just what do you think? As a family, they want to come, and probably from Latin America.
Well, family, when you bring your family, I think you have to prioritize probably two things. One, if you're going to find a job, employment. And second, cost of living probably is a big one as well.
Yes.
So I would still, for that, I would definitely recommend, even more, I would recommend Atlantic. Why? Because the cities are very low cost. They're very child friendly.
She's posted again, Carolina. So she's put it in Spanish. La mejor provincia en realidad.
Good job, Brenda. Yes. La mejor provincia en realidad quise poner. She's asking about the best province.
Yeah. So don't go to Ontario. Don't go to BC. If you don't know French, avoid Quebec. But One note though, Ontario rural program is not bad, Carolina. So we have some colleges in the rural cities, right, where they could be eligible for those programs, right?
Yes, but the only thing is that I every time I offer, the only problem is that those places can be a little bit harsh in terms of weather. Like when you talk about Thunder Bay and all that. So that's a little bit. That's why I wouldn't maybe recommend those for a family.
Yeah.
But in general, maybe I would say a smaller province with a lower cost of living. I'm going to repeat that in Spanish, Reza. So básicamente la mejor provincia un poquito depende de los requerimientos de esa familia, pero en general pensar en un costo de vida bajo, y eso siempre va a ser mejor en provincias un poco más pequeñas. Provincias del Atlántico son buenas. Quieres una provincia que tenga un costo de vida bajo pero que tenga empleabilidad. Basically, I'm saying maybe a balance between cost of living, but also that you can find a job, right, where there is enough employability. Okay, so you maybe a mid-sized province, una provincia como te digo, por ejemplo, New Brunswick, que es una provincia más pequeña, pero que está creciendo, hay mucho desarrollo, entonces por lo tanto bastante trabajo. Windsor es una buena ciudad en Ontario. Por ahora, esperemos que los precios no vayan a subir, pero el costo de vida aún es más bajo, y es una ciudad que colinda con Estados Unidos, por lo tanto hay mucho comercio, hay muchas fábricas, industrias, entonces hay varias opciones de trabajo. Entonces, summarizing, basically I would say smaller provinces like Atlantic, maybe smaller cities in Ontario as well, because you also have the rural elimination program there. En resumidas cuentas sería eso, provincias pequeñas, más pequeñas, pero con opciones de empleo en el Atlántico o quizás en las partes rurales de Ontario.
Yeah, that makes sense, Carolina, in terms of what you summarized in English, at least for us English speakers, and thankfully, hopefully she would get a better idea on where to go. Coming to the big cities is good and really bad, so it depends how you look at it, right? If you want to spend more money, there are opportunities, but it's also very competitive, right? If you go to smaller regions, there's less people for each job. So remember that Canada's population is not spread out. It's actually concentrated in the big metropolitan areas like Montreal, Vancouver, Winnipeg, Toronto, Ottawa. The rural regions, or smaller, let's say, provinces or regions, do have a lack of skilled workers. So Meme239 is asking that he or she has applied for the TR to PR path, non-healthcare essential occupations. He's asking how long it will take for IRCC, basically the Canadian government, to respond and to process the PR. Nobody knows yet at this point, but we expect that within the first 4 months, you should be receiving a letter saying that your document is complete, having a file number, and then going on for processing. I don't believe the processing will be quicker than the end of this year. Perhaps they have the goal of issuing the PRs by the end of this year, but whether the completeness check and the eligibility confirmation letter with your file number, I would say at least 3-4 months. I don't think it's going to happen in 2 months. It really depends on how many people they will allocate to process each file, right? So we have another question. Uman Patel 26. In the new path, we can require joint account or lease agreement in Canada for essential worker category. You don't need a joint account or lease agreement. You have to show that you're inside of Canada, right? And employed.
I think he said a married person, right?
In new pathway, no, it says in new pathway can require joint account or lease agreement in Canada for essential worker category. So for married person, for married. Okay, that's good. That's good. Good thing we have Carolina here. So yeah, I mean, married persons, you need a marriage certificate. You don't need anything else. Okay. So if you're married and you were married several years before, maybe back in whatever country you're from, and then you came over, you just need a translated marriage certificate. If you just married here with another international student, then yeah, I would put in some more documentation about how you met, how long the relationship was. And like you said, lease agreements, joint accounts, these would be helpful. But if you were married before you came to Canada, or you were married, you know, a year, 2, 3 years ago, then you just need a marriage license. Okay, that's it, and make sure it's translated. So yeah, do we have any more questions? So if anybody's joined us just now, we are answering live questions here. So post them on the comment section and we'd be happy to answer them live. So we have another question in the question answer box. Okay. So it says, so Anapao Montiel, I hope I answered that correctly. I mean, I pronounced that correctly. What would be a reason for a study permit rejected? So, yeah, if we're talking about inside of Canada, it typically means you don't meet the eligibility. If you're applying from outside of Canada, then it's a whole bunch of reasons that can come up. Financials, misrepresentation. So maybe you applied before, or the person, and they didn't declare to the Canadian government that they were refused before. Maybe they applied or visited to US or Europe, but they didn't declare it on their forms. Their financials should be very good, and depending on the country they're applying. So from India, for example, you should come under the student direct stream. Typically, it's better. You should have your language exam scores. You should have a letter of admission, your GIC, and 1 year tuition paid in advance to the school. If you're coming from other regions like Middle East, Africa, there's other reasons that they're refusing. Sometimes there's no reason. They just like to refuse because they have quotas and they don't want to accept a lot of applicants, right? Whether you're from Middle East, Africa, or other countries, even Venezuela, right? So there's a whole slew of different reasons why there would be a refusal on a study permit. It could, and usually on the letter they state that we don't believe that you can do it, and then they may add something else as well. But typically each country, each nationality is different, right? So that's why it's important to consider looking at the application before you apply, or if you're reapplying after refusal, making sure you address every single concern that the officer has stated on their refusal letter. If you are not upgrading or improving that profile, or have not updated your documents, and you're just going to apply again for a study permit, you'll probably be refused the second time, right?
I just want to add, Reza, also those rejections also vary, okay?
Yeah.
Within time. As Reza mentioned, depends a lot on the nationality, but then they start sometimes looking at different requirements. For example, nowadays we're seeing that the study gap, it's being really there. Immigration is giving a lot of importance to that. The gap, the study gap. When we say study gap, we are talking about the time within your when you finished your degree and when you're applying, right? Just for example, you finish your degree in 2014, that's a 6-year gap. So immediately after 5 years, that's a red flag. Okay, so that they are putting a lot of emphasis on that. So basically, they are just saying we prefer younger candidates or people that are constantly studying. Probably.
True, very true.
That's the big thing nowadays. So I would say, in summary, financials for sure. If you don't have money, it's an issue. The study gap, English level, they look at. The fact that you convince them that you're coming to study, that you're not going to do anything else. Okay, even though we have all these great programs, you're applying for a study permit, and that's your main goal here. So convincing the person that you're coming here to study, that's another big one.
Yeah, she's applying from Mexico. That's what she's saying. I'm applying from Mexico, and on my personal letter, I said I went to Canada to study twice already. Yeah, that's you have to be careful with that. So did you have a study permit? Was it short-term studies in English and you came with an ETA? So you have to be careful what you say to the embassy. And she said, however,
study permit, like what you put in your letter, guys, is super important. Like,
yeah,
that's part of my job. As a job, I help create those letters because it's important. They actually, it's a summary of all your application, so that's what they read the most.
Yeah. So she says, however, I said I applied for a scholarship last time. I went. Is that a reason I can get rejected? No, no. They don't reject you because you applied for a scholarship. That makes absolutely no sense. It would be other reasons. And what I can recommend to you is that basically, if you have somebody in Canada who can apply for your GCMS notes, so that means the Global Case Management System notes, it'll specify the specific reasons the officer refused you. And it takes around 30 to 45 days to get. Okay, so I would say do that before you reapply. And remember, you can apply a million times, but the first time, the second time, the third, it's done. If you've been refused 2 or 3 times, good luck with that. I mean, it's going to be very difficult. So we have another question from Ahone S. I applied for the TR to PR pathway for international graduates and then got laid off. I've been unemployed for 12 days. Now I found a new job. Do I let IRCC know? Will my application be rejected? No, don't let them know now. Wait for them to ask for more documents from you. And basically, just continue on. Make sure you get your pay slips from this company. Make sure you have your pay slips and all the documents from the previous employer. Don't mention anything now. Okay. I think let it go. Need to know basis, right? Don't give additional information. Wait for them to initiate the questions first from IRCC. Okay. I have worked. So here's another question from Suman Bar 1. Hi, I have worked at Amazon. This experience will be counted as essential workers. Depending on your title, yes, it could be counted, right? So that's that. Una Uman Gaptel 26. My wife started French class and she has 7 band in IELTS and she will graduate in June 10th. After receiving graduate certificate, can I require all documents in French? Yes, she should be working. Make sure she has an old medical at least and a police clearance certificate, and then you can apply. Okay. Make sure you don't apply with incomplete documents because that will create issues and send back your documents. So Chile Way, the Spanish-speaking viewer, is asking another question. My husband, it's been working as a sushiman for 23 years.
Okay.
He should validate all his skills or not necessary. So I don't know. Is this for like a permit or something or a PR? What do you think, Carolina?
Well, this is a culinary job. Remember that this is a good question. In Canada, you have to think that there are trades and professions that are certified now or that require certification.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that means that without a certification, you cannot work here. I am not particularly sure about this career path.
Yeah.
But it would have to be. I don't think it's regulated, to be honest. But
no, cooks are not regulated. I would say for future reference, get 5 years of work experience documents because that'll be all that's needed in case he has a job offer or something. You don't need 20 years of work experience document. I think five years would suffice, right? Yeah. So Suman Barwan is saying that she worked at Amazon as a packer and shipper. Yes, it's possible. We'd have to see the exact title on your employment letter. Then we could match you. But yeah, packers and shippers, if it's a NOC C, would be eligible under the essential occupations non-healthcare. Okay, and it depends on each person's specific employment reference letter and the description and responsibilities, right? So there's 2 more questions. Okay, She's asking more questions. So Anna Paumontiel. I think that's how I say your name, right? Yeah.
No problem, Annabelle. Thank you.
Yeah. Short-term studies. Okay. She said she did short-term studies. I applied for visitor visa and ETA. Oh, okay. Yeah. She applied for short-term studies. And then, sorry, I couldn't write down the document I should look for. Could you please repeat it? Yeah, sure. It's okay. Let me write it here. Hold on. So search for IRCC 8 tip. Okay. Search for that. I just posted it here. So on Google, search IRCC ATIP. Then it will take you through some screens. You authorize them. You will say, I want documents from immigration department. You need somebody in Canada to apply for you. It doesn't allow you as a non-resident from outside to apply. And then basically go through, put all your details, your UCI number, which is the unique client identifier, and what you're looking for. So you put refusal reasons for visitor visa or ETA applied on this date, right? So just make sure that you search for that and you go through that website, and that's where everybody goes to request the notes. So the visa officer notes from the global case management system, which is the GCMS, but you don't need to know the abbreviation for that. By the way, this video will be posted on our social media afterwards, so you don't need to worry. You can always, go back, and instead of watching Netflix, just watch us. It's okay. So for anybody who's just joined, we are back here every Tuesday, 9 a.m., 5 p.m. Standard North America time. I had Carolina here today, who's our education manager. She's fluent in Spanish, so she helps all of our students with their study plans, program selection, finding the best program, finding the cheapest programs, finding available programs. Folks, this is high value stuff here. And it was great talking with everybody today. We will be answering more questions next Tuesday. Again, live immigration question answer period to help everybody inside, outside of Canada, no matter what. Okay. Thank you, Carolina. Thanks for joining. I know you have the thesis.
Sorry about had a little bit of an issue, but yeah, thank you. I'm happy to join you, and
yeah, Carolina will be back eventually. You'll be back eventually, so no worries. So we'll see everybody next Tuesday. Next Tuesday. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Carolina. Take care. Let me shut off all these guys here.